How's it going, everybody? I'm Sam Lee, and welcome to Gaming Instincts. Today, we'll get into our first impressions of Monster Hunter Ryze's demo from the perspective of our writer, Jaydyn. Since Monster Hunter World's release in 2018, I have been fully on board the Monster Hunter train. I have poured days of my life over monster strategies, armor builds, and study of the massive creatures themselves. Few games have brought me as much satisfaction as Monster Hunter World. So, when Capcom officially unveiled Monster Hunter Ryze for the Nintendo Switch, I was beyond excited. Having now tried Ryze's demo, it's safe to say it is quite generous to players. As with Generation's Ultimate before it, players will be able to take on 3 monsters that scale in difficulty. The Great Izuchi is a great beginner-level threat, Mizutsune acts as an intermediate challenge, and the newly added Magnamalo serves as the advanced difficulty monster. Using one of Ryze's 14 weapons, players will take on one of these beasts and attempt to slay them in battle. During my time in the demo, I find myself gravitating to the dual blades and the trusty bow and arrow. I was surprised to find how similar the controls in Ryze are those to in World, having expected to relearn controls and button placements. Fortunately, that wasn't the case as my muscle memory took over and I took out the Great Izuchi with ease. Fighting Mizutsune acts as a fun yet simple challenge, as the fight forces players to adapt to the new systems and makes for a satisfying fight, especially when playing with friends. Magnamalo, on the other hand, is merciless in nature and will require dozens of attempts to learn his moveset in order to best him. Magnamalo is more than happy to knock out players in one hit if they're not careful, and uses the new Hellblight to inflict additional damage. On top of that, his fight has a 15-minute time limit that will test solo players and teams of 4 alike. Magnamalo is sure to keep fans busy until the release of Monster Hunter Ryze later this month. The biggest hurdle to overcome was figuring out the new Wirebug traversal system. The Wirebug is a new tool that not only adds verticality to the world, but also deepens the already complex combat system. Players can swing their way up onto buildings and nature itself to launch themselves up to previously unavailable spaces, or use the Wirebugs to dash great distances and leap out of harm's way. The tactical options and potential for exploration that this new verticality brings cannot be overstated. Wirebugs will also affect weapons with the addition of Silkbind attacks. These attacks are different for each weapon, and being able to use them while on a team makes strategy and team building much more important than in World. I found my personal favorite was the Dual Blades Piercing Bind, which entails piercing the targeted monster with a kunai and linking the player to said monster while causing extra damage. In addition to that ability and a dashing strike attack, the dual blades will also have access to some astounding combos. The Wirebugs not only bring with them new weapon combos, but also, for the first time, the power to exert direct control over monsters. World introduced turf wars with another monster, meaning that as a player was fighting their target, another monster would sometimes wander into the fight. This could either make the fight easier, or more difficult depending on how the AI felt that day. Regardless, in most cases it showcased some of the best moments Monster Hunter World had to offer. Monster Hunter Ryze takes turf wars one step further by adding a 3rd monster into the fray. With this new level of challenge, having the ability to use one's Wirebug and mount a monster to use as a temporary ally was a welcome addition. Once players have seized control of the monster, they're able to perform light and heavy attacks as well as run the monster into a wall for major damage. At times, however, it did feel a little clunky, and I was unsure how to best utilize this ability. Capcom does provide a tutorial for the new Wirebug system, but like the other Monster Hunter systems, how this ability is best used is completely reliant on the player and experimentation. This, in my opinion, is a near-perfect distillation of Monster Hunter's major appeal, having the freedom to create armor builds and loadouts that will benefit me in each and every fight. Thus, Ryze seems to be building upon what made World fantastic in this regard. Unfortunately, Monster Hunter Ryze's demo only allows for preset builds that cannot be upgraded or modified in any way, so it was hard to see what kind of quality of life improvements are coming. However, with what Capcom has released so far, it is looking as if Monster Hunter Ryze is going to be just as accessible for newcomers while keeping the complexity for longtime fans. One of the more notable improvements in the demo was the introduction of the Palamutes. This distinctly Monster Hunter take on man's best friend grants players the ability to ride across vast open areas in a flash, along with aiding players in battle alongside their trusty Palico, whether fighting solo or with a friend. Palamutes can help quickly hunt down a target and consume items, or sharpen weapons at the same time. In all honesty, the Palamutes seem to have been inspired by Monster Hunter World Iceborne's Raider Riots. Speaking of playing with a friend, I played mostly ad hoc, which worked flawlessly when we would play across the house from each other. Online worked flawlessly as well, and I played on a wireless connection both docked and in handheld mode. Among its many strong qualities, Monster Hunter World is renowned for the gorgeousness of its environments and creatures. Given that the Switch has significantly less power than the 8th generation of consoles, I was a little worried about how Monster Hunter Ryze would look and run on Nintendo's hybrid system. To my relief, and I assume countless others, I ran into little slowdown as Ryze stays at a mostly smooth 30 FPS, rarely dipping below that in my experience. Part of this might have to do with how Monster Hunter Ryze utilizes the RE engine to great effect. Environments are well rendered and textures look detailed in general, aside from the flat vines on some rock formations. Meanwhile, all three of the main monsters look menacing and immediately recognizable, unlike in Generations Ultimate. With such a promising and refined engine at its disposal, it's not surprising that Ryze looks incredible on the Switch. Now that I have about 5 hours in the demo under my belt, I feel confident in saying that Monster Hunter Ryze looks like a worthy successor to Monster Hunter World that should keep fans busy for hundreds of hours, both on the go and at home. Monster Hunter Ryze is set to release exclusively for the Nintendo Switch on March 26th. This has been Gaming Instincts. The full article is linked in the description below. If you want to check out other awesome articles, head on over to our website at gaminginstincts.com. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel to stay up to date on all that gaming goodness. Thanks for watching. This has been Sam Lee, and we'll catch you next time.